Hello, and welcome to Bandstand, the official podcast of the Tennessee Bandmasters Association. I'm your host, David Aydelott, and I hope you'll join us on a journey through the past, present, and future of bands in Tennessee. We'll delve into the rich history of Tennessee bands, uncovering the hidden gems and legendary figures who shaped the state's band landscape. We'll survey the present, where you'll meet the movers and shakers of today, gaining insights from their expertise and experiences. And we'll gaze towards the future, exploring the exciting possibilities that await Tennessee's school bands. In this episode, Joanne Hood and I speak with Evan Burton and Carolyn Hankins about how to have a good day at CPA. Of course, Joanne is one of our Bandstand co-hosts and oversees all the concert performance assessment events for MTSBOA. Evan and Carolyn are the band directors at Page Middle School in Franklin, and the Page Band is one of the best around. Evan just returned from Memphis, where he conducted one of this year's All West bands. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Excited to have you. We're hoping that with this episode, we can provide some tips on managing the day of performance at CPA. I don't think this will be too much about how to prepare your band for performance in the weeks leading up to CPA, but more about the actual day you play. So, this can be a really stressful day for everybody involved. Evan and Carolyn, how do you keep everybody calm? And that would include yourself, too, as a teacher.
Carolyn and I were discussing that this afternoon, and at the same time, we both kind of answered, and I said, I don't know, I'm just always calm and the kids are too. And at the same time, Carolyn was saying, I'm always a wreck and all the kids are too. I think what we determine is that they just respond to your energy and just, I don't know, just who I am. I just kind of stay calm, and the kids pick up on that, and they don't view it as too big a deal. And I would say, I wouldn't speak for Carolyn, but she would have the opposite probably. And so, but really what the message of that is they feed off your energy. And if you just are calm and businesslike, and this is just what we do, then for the most part, they're going to just follow and take your cue, especially, we teach middle school. So for most of our kids, it's their first experience doing something like this. So they don't really know what to think except just what they see you model for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What I have learned is the years, because we're old, Evan, like we're the old people now.
I know.
We've been doing this a long time. And the years that I did not feel calm, it was not my students' fault. It was my fault. It was my fault in preparation before the event. So anytime that I feel myself feeling anxious or worried, then I think, why is that? And 99% of the time, it's because I haven't labeled all the percussion equipment, or I need to make sure all the scores have everything erased. And I have waited to the last minute to do something, which causes anxiety and, for me. And Evan, thank goodness, we kind of balance each other out. He's very much a pre-planner. So those things are just natural to him, where all I've been doing is worry about the music. And so sometimes I think that is why I feel a little bit anxious. The other thing that I'm just always energy and a balled up, just whatever, an emotion. And I do this weird thing, but everybody can just do it. You just call 4, 5, 6. And everybody breathes in band, so it's not weird. You just breathe in for 4, you hold your breath for 5, and you let it out for 6, and nobody ever knows you do it. Mm-hmm. And I teach the kids that too, just 4, 5, 6. And when I say it to them, sometimes they'll know, like, Miss Hankins needs a minute, or it can mean I better check myself because I'm rambling off crazy. So sometimes just taking a big deep breath, that helps. But for sure, energy. Evan, you nailed it. That's it. And just tell them they're going to be great, even if they're not going to be. You don't do weird stuff on that day, like that can mean a whole lot to them, because your mind's real powerful on a day like that.
Yeah. Joanne, what do you see as the host when you're dealing with directors?
Exactly what she was saying, that they are not prepared. They forgot their scores. They, all of this stuff, David, I used to check my backpack or briefcase to make sure I had the scores at least 50 times before I left the office and got in the car. And then I'd check them 3 or 4 times, because I usually drove, or if we didn't, I'd check there to make sure I have them, and just, trying to be calm. And as Carolyn said, not to do anything different. it's a normal day, but we're going for a performance. I see that, that they're not, I've got the wrong scores. I left my scores on the desk. I did this, I'm missing my snare and my first oboe. What do we do? And so that they're panicked at that point. So
Yeah. I mean, it's not about the preparation, but a lot of it is obviously. Like the times where I've been really nervous have been when the band's maybe not as ready as I wanted them to be, So,
Sure. Sure.
like there have been days where I walked in there and I was like, no problem, we got this, you just know. So, yeah, I love the idea of like having, and that's something too. A lot of what we talk about on this podcast is what we can do to help young directors, and some sort of a checklist might be a good thing for us to be able to push out. Like a week before, make sure these things are done. 2 weeks before, make sure these things are done. The day of, so that because you just forget things and you don't learn, and then you show up and then Joanne's yelling at you because you didn't number your scores or whatever. So, and then you're really nervous and crying. But I think that's, again, a lot of the stuff we talk about on this podcast is what can we do to help the young teachers, and part of it is that we all know this because we learned it through making mistakes, but we could make a difference in some young teacher's career if we can get this information to them way ahead of time.
Absolutely, I hope so. Just feed positivity into your kids that day. You figure out what you can control and what you cannot control. And then try to react real calm, and you feed positivity into them all day long, no matter how you feel. And that's your job on that day, to make them feel better than they were. And when they leave, they feel better in some way.
I love that.
When Joanne just said something about, they show up and they're missing their snare drummer and they panicked. That made me think we always, for every solo and snare drum and those kind of really important one-off parts, we always have a backup. So we make somebody else learn it, because that happened to me once where, a soloist got sick the night before and we hadn't prepared anybody else. And
absolutely.
Hopefully you don't need it, but that can create all kinds of panic for everybody the day of.
Brilliant.
If you don't have a backup plan.
And the kids know you have a backup plan too. Like this year we have one of our little songs.
So then they're calm.
Yeah. Do we have a saxophone solo? Well, we got 3 8th grade saxophones that are pretty good. They all, during class, they all play it, because you never know what's going to happen. So just try to think forward. What, and I don't like to think negative, but sometimes you do have to think like, what if something, and then try to come up with a plan to that if it could be disastrous on the day of.
Yeah. There are some logistics involved. Some of the time, this is the first band trip for some of your students. Can you talk a little bit about how you structure the schedule on your performance day? Like, how do you deal with meals? How early do you get there? What do you do if the buses can't pick you up for another 2 hours? Just talk about some of those logistic things.
Yeah, we were kind of making our plan today, actually going through all that. And, a lot of it depends on your performance time. You have to be flexible around that. But we like, if possible, to have them come to us at the beginning of the day. Just, let's treat it as a field trip all day, and they're not going to go to any class at all. And that way we can have a little bit of an extended rehearsal in the morning, and then they've got time to maybe change clothes and it just have a little bit of chill time to just hang out with their friends and load the bus, and none of that be frantic.
But hey, that rehearsal that morning, you don't change stuff. You're not like cutting kids out or like changing up some music. It means like you're rehearsing to make them feel good about what they're fixing to do, not to change a bunch. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Don't expect to do anything the day of on that rehearsal. Sorry, Evan, but
that's fine. And then, unless you have an early morning, that performance time that could be different. But if you're later in the day, you can just not be frantic. If there's time and they can eat lunch before they leave school, that's easiest. Depending again on your schedule, that may not be possible. And then we like to get there, maybe about an hour before our warm-up time, roughly, is kind of what we plan on. If you get there too early, you end up with a lot of dead time, and they get antsy, and then they start getting nervous, and that can be problematic. We certainly want them to see some groups, but there's a limit to how many they can watch before it becomes discipline issues and all that kind of thing, at least in middle school anyway. So we plan to be there about an hour before warm-up generally, which gives time to unload, put instruments together, stop at the bathroom, then get into the hall where they can see it and hear a group or two, and then head to warm up at that point. This year we're going to eat lunch after we get back. We have sometimes stopped before at a park and brought sack lunches, and we just kind of handle that based on our time and our schedule for the day. But there's the space at our we're going to MTSU. Of course, they have it everywhere, but most anywhere would have some kind of a space where the kids can hang out and eat and that kind of thing. If you had to wait on your buses or something like that.
When I was by myself before, it was just me, I'd get nervous about traffic or you're just nervous when you get there earlier. So I would always look at the schedule and see, okay, who are the two bands? Like, who could we go see? And then just think like, well, my kids enjoy this performance. This is going to be a good experience for all of us. Then they go watch, you talk to them beforehand, but they go watch some kids. And then also, if you get on the interstate or wherever you're headed and there's traffic and there's a wreck or whatever, you got a little bit of padding in there that that you were planning for your kids to watch a performance. But if they miss that, not the end of the world. If they miss their warm up and you're all frantic and crazy, that might affect them negatively. But they didn't know anyway. They just knew to expect to listen to something. So that's kind of what I like to do. If you can,
smart planning. The pad time is good.
The padding time, putting a little padding time in there is great, and getting them there to hear some groups. I always tried to do that also, either before or after. Hopefully before, if time works out that way. But with scheduling, sometimes it has to be after, because I think that's important for your group to hear other groups, and vice versa. It also gives the kids an opportunity to, maybe if you do it before, to see kind of the procedure and what goes on and what's happening, so they're not caught off guard of, they're going to make an announcement, so
yeah,
of what's happening. But yeah, it's all good stuff. Yeah, you gotta be prepared for anything, and then don't panic if you're caught in traffic. We'll get you worked in or help you. Whatever we need to do.
Yeah, if you're a young director and that happens, you have a traffic problem or a bus is late, everybody that's associated, I'll just assume that it's the same in East and West. Everybody wants you to have a great experience with your kids. So the best thing you can do is just communicate. If you have some catastrophe, just get on the phone and call whoever's organizing your event and just let them know, because we've all been there. Everybody's been there and in that situation. So
yeah,
just communicate.
And that's the key word right there, communicate.
Yeah. Okay, besides, you kind of talked about this a minute ago, Evan, besides the right percussion equipment, what should directors bring with them on the day of?
We made a list earlier today, which I left at school, but I think I remember. You need your baton, you need a tuner for yourself, or, if your kids have tuners, or your phone in, whatever, something for tuning. You need, obviously, your scores and all the judges' scores. I would always suggest you bring all of the original music, because some kid, at least in middle school, will get there and say,
Absolutely.
"Oh, were we supposed to bring our music?" Maybe
in
high school they don't do that.
No,
but in middle school they do.
Do not expect those children. They're going to forget it. They're going to forget. Yeah. So yes, take copies and take the music. Absolutely.
Bring, some water or maybe snacks for yourself. Bring some kind of simple repair kit, reeds and valve oil, and maybe some screwdriver, some minor stuff like that. And
but if you're like me, you have reeds, valve oil, that sort of stuff. But like, I'm not great at repairing instruments. Evan's way better than me, and I'm following Carol Strayer. She could fix anything. And the kids, I've learned they became, which is awesome, dependent upon that. And sometimes I can't fix the instrument, and things happen when you go, to CPA. And I've gone myself or sent a parent or somebody out to just be like, go find another adult that can help me because this instrument's broken. Don't waste your time on somebody's bass clarinet that always breaks. But there are so many people around that want you to be successful. Nobody wants the kids to do badly. So if something like that happens, do not panic. Go get somebody.
Do you bring a carpet with you if you're playing on, like, MTSU's stage can be kind of live? Do you take a carpet with you to?
Yeah, that's good. I didn't think
that's such a good. Yes.
We have whole we put all the percussion stuff on carpets. We have like towels. As much stuff as we can have. And actually, for our trumpet players this year, we got two pieces where they have two separate mutes, and of course they always drop them or knock them, right in the softest section of the song. So we bought little round rugs that each trumpet player
No. They're not round rugs. They are mink and they are bougie, and it is awesome. They are these.
I thought they were just little rugs, but they came and they are faux fur. It looks like a mink coat.
Yes. So listen, you should not hear those
I
mutes.
can't wait to see those.
Joanne, they'll probably be bedazzled by the time we get there. Evan will be like, have you been studying your score? I'll be like, no, but I've been bedazzling those mutes. Those mute pads.
That's hilarious.
But that's so true.
But anyway, the idea is that they can carefully set the mute
Yeah.
on the little rug, and if it falls over, it won't clank or anything. So
Yeah.
And the only reason that people know, like, listen, the first time I played at MTSU, my whole entire tape was the bass drum's too loud, bass drum still too loud, bass drum, hey, bass drum, you're still too loud. I wanted to call that person and say, like, hey, guess what? We're in middle school. That kid's going to continue to play too loud. Tell me something else, man. But, then after that, I'm like, I'll be doggone if I'm going to let them tell me that again. So I just put we went to Walmart or something, got a bunch of black towels. Percussion is stressful.
towels.
We can talk about that in a different question, but I will say, if I've got advice for anybody, I can talk the percussion stuff in general, them going out there and getting set up, and that's stressful. You got to make sure you've got some help and you have practiced that stuff.
Yeah.
we can go to that in a minute, whatever.
And take your time. If you get in there and it's not
Yeah.
like you want it, take the time and get it fixed right.
Mhm.
Until Joanne starts yelling at you, and then you have to play. But until then,
But Joanne will. That's the thing. She's told me before, come on, Hankins, let's go. I'm like, well, all right. That if that's the worst thing that happens today, then that's amazing, because I wanted to get it set up right, So fix it for your kids. Take some time and breathe and fix it for your kids. Do it the right way. One year, we got on stage and the percussion was all backwards because the kids are dumb, and they set it up backwards, like literally backwards. And I was dumb. So the whole time, all I could think of all through both songs was, golly, this sucks. I wish the percussion was set up the right way. Like, why did I let that happen? We didn't do good. It was bad. And I'm the one in charge. You need to say, what is wrong with you? And then you just take some time and you fix the doggone percussion. It's true.
Move the tip to the other side.
Yep.
how do you handle stage etiquette with your kids?
We practice it. Like, we will actually, when we get close to the day of, we'll send them all out in the hall, line them up, and make them come in and, practice. Don't sit down until we tell you to, and where to look and how to stand and all that. And we always play a little trick on them. We'll take somebody's chair away or something and see how they handle it.
Ooh, I love that.
We'll say,
Yes, obstacles.
it may happen.
We
You
on
may get up
purpose
there
make
and-
it wrong.
Oh, I
Yeah,
love
so
that.
you don't get up there and freak out. You just raise your hand and say, hey, I don't have a chair. So
Because it's
we do
going to
it once or
happen.
twice.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The truth of the matter is, kids will act like morons if you let them. And you have to tell them that this is a time you do not exhibit moronic behavior, period. And you've got to tell them what you expect of them. And you know what? They'll do it. If they love you, and they should love you, you're taking them on a field trip. They're not in school. You love them enough to make them be better by taking them to CPA. So you tell them, you don't embarrass me. And you got to teach them, though. You got to practice it.
Well, and for
And-
middle school kids, it's such a great time to learn what it means to represent your school. It's not just you; it's how you represent everybody on the stage, everybody on the bus, all the kids back at the other. It's a great lesson for them.
And I also, no matter what school I've been at, because I haven't been at Page for forever. I was at Sunset and then I was at Brentwood. Started at Hillsboro, but no matter what, like even when my kids didn't perform at Hillsboro, we went and we watched. And representing your school, like, you stand up and applaud for those kids, like, because you know what, people left talking about us because not because we were great on the stage, because Lord have mercy, we weren't, but we were kind and we supported other people, and we talked to the kids about that. That's etiquette too. You find
Yes.
something good and positive, and just they're nervous too.
Yep.
So yeah, but you have to teach the kids. They won't do it on their own. They'll act
Yeah,
bad.
absolutely. The longer I teach, the more I realize they don't know. And every little thing you take for granted, I had to learn all those things too. We all did, but it's easy to forget. They don't know those things.
And I know this seems really silly, but this helped me. And I don't know, it's common sense. But once you get up there on the stage and then you're looking around and everybody's chairs and stands and whatever, and you're fixing to let them sit, you need to train the kids to look down and make their stand and chair equal distance to the person to the left and to the right of them. And make them feel comfortable. Hold their arms out and make sure they'll just sit there like crowded on top of each other, or like they're nervous.
Yep.
So
make them feel like it's at home. Yeah,
that's right.
I had a little 6th grader last week. This tuba player, he was just sitting in the corner, like facing the wall during class, and I'm like, "What did Miss Hankins put you back here? What are you doing?" And he said, "This was the only chair," and I was like, "Well, the chairs move. What are you doing?"
Did Miss Hankins put you there? Well,
I love that's the first question.
Hey, that would be a good thing to do for ones you didn't want to play. Okay, your chairs over there.
There you go.
Nobody puts baby in the corner.
That's right, Patrick. I hear you.
Okay, we already kind of talked about this, but what about having students listen to other groups? Is it better to do it before, after? How do you prepare your kids for that?
I think before is better if possible, just because, like Joanne said earlier, they can see the room and kind of see the procedure, and they're also in a place where they're focused and calm, and hopefully after you're feeling good and excited and celebrating, and that might not be the best mindset to go in then and listen attentively.
Do you talk to them about where to
schedule?
Do you talk about, is it a chance to talk about concert etiquette, like clapping between movements, or what appropriate applause is? Do you talk about that sort of stuff too?
We do, yes. Usually right before we go in, because if you tell them 3 days before, they'll forget, So.
Yeah, and the other thing that you do is you set your kids up for success, not failure. Don't let the percussion section all sit together. If they get on your nerves every day during class, they're going to get on your nerves. You separate those kids out. You sit them by people they're not going to want to sit beside, and you remind them beforehand. It doesn't matter what emotion you feel. I need you to remember that everyone is trying, and we're going to support them and let them leave here feeling better as well, because it's going to make a memory in that kid's mind that's watching it. It's either going to be, man, I wish I was as good as that band, or thank goodness my band doesn't sound like that. Something's going to happen. They're going to feel an emotion.
I got one thing on the listening. I think I've been really impressed with a lot of the groups, and Susan, I think, started this several years ago. Susan Waters, they bring a judge's sheet, an actual copy of the judge's sheets, give them out to the kids, and they have to evaluate the kids, and then they take.
That's a great idea.
That's fantastic.
And they're giving a score and writing things about what they hear. And it's a great learning process, and it also keeps them occupied, and it makes them listen to what's going on.
Well, and it makes it relevant, because that's just what they were judged on, or what they're fixing to be judged on. That's great.
Exactly.
And if you've got an uptight principal that might be asking why you're taking the kids out of school, I mean, I believe something to that effect is on the team rubric too. So, having the kids, and also in the state curriculum about having kids that are able to evaluate and that sort of thing. About parents, and we've talked a little bit about how to prepare your students for their first time to travel, but a lot of times you might have parent chaperones traveling with the band too. So how do you handle parent chaperones, preparing them for sort of what their boundaries are for the day? Anything about that?
Choose your parent that comes with you, or parents, wisely, and make sure that you know them a little bit beforehand. You don't want this to be your first experience with this human being. You're going to feel lots of emotions. All that I ever want is just total success for my kids. And that emotion can overwhelm me. And then having a mom who so means well continue to come up to me and say, like, can I do anything else for you? Can I do anything else for you? Can I do anything else for you? Get away from me. But then I asked her to come, So my suggestion is you need to figure out what is in the realm. What can this parent help me with to alleviate, to take it off my plate, something that I'm going to be stressed about. For instance, a couple of years ago, I had this tuba player. I love him, but he acted, sometimes he made bad decisions, talked too much, he'd drop his stuff all the time. He's just a hot mess. He needed a little bit of help. And I thought to myself, what is going to make me feel better on the day of concert performance assessment, and how can this parent help me? And that year, it happened to be, go help my tuba player. And So that's what we did. Another year, it might be help me to carry all the tuners. You kind of have to just figure it out. What do you need that day? And what is that parent actually able to do for you? But gosh, if I have any advice, it is just, you don't need to have the first interaction with that parent does not need to be that day. Like, have them come in and talk to them beforehand and say, here's kind of what I'm needing from you. You don't need them to tell you if your band sounds bad or good. You don't need them to even talk to the kids. You need them to help you if the kids' pants are unzipped, or something like that. But it's not their job to help you with music. And you do need to talk to them. It's true. It's true. It's true.
Boundaries on the front end. Yeah.
And just figure out what can they do. And also they can help you with those kids that are behavior problems too. Like, I'm real lucky now because I've got a co-director, but I mean, I've done this a lot of times by myself and really wish that I had help. And then I get mad at the help that came with me. And it was because I did not think, what do I want them to do? Give them a job because they're there because they love their kid and they love your band. So figure out what it is that you want them to do and let them do it.
Brilliant. So this can be the first time students experience band travel. How do you handle communication with parents, bus drivers, the students themselves, the teachers back at school about missed homework? And Joanne, feel free to jump in on any of this like you want to.
This year, at the beginning of the school year, we told the parents, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, when you get an email from us, it's important. Like, they're indoctrinated with stuff constantly. On Friday, they get a Friday note. On Monday, they know what they're doing in math and blah, blah, blah. So we try not to say, like, we don't send a lot of emails. And when we send one, I think we've trained our parents well enough to know that when you get it, it's important. But Evan is fantastic with just stating facts and they're not mean, but like when he sends things to the school, about the kids, excusing the kids from school, bam, 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 bullet pointed list. Here are the kids. This is what's happening. Thank you so much.
Well, just what I've learned from having kids in school is you get, like Carolyn said, so many emails from every teacher with everything they're doing this week. And it just, like, you just shut down. And we're trained to just delete anything that comes from the school without even opening it because of that. So I try to keep it as minimal as possible. Only the most important information that they need, and very quick and easy to read. Like Carolyn taught me about bullet points. It's easier to read and people will respond to that better than paragraphs. So
well, if you're
that's
ADD,
what I try to do.
I mean, I am textbook ADD. Do not send me a novel. Like, you can explain it later to me, but the very beginning of what you need from me, I need you to give me a list. My kid needs $20. Absolutely. My kid needs his signature signed for the permission slip. Absolutely. You need to tell me what you need from me at the beginning of that email. Then, if you like to give all the detail, do it. Because none of us want to answer much questions either during this time. Try to make it, write the email to the parents and stuff so that you don't have to ever talk to them again.
Yep. Be proactive.
I always did. Of course, I know now with all the communication through technology and everything, I always did, and I did this probably the last year I taught, a written schedule of what's going to happen that day. And if there's something happening in the week, if you've got a concert or something, maybe do a week schedule to send home, email it home, whatever you got to do. But of telling them, this is exactly what we're going to do this day. This is blah, 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 blah. And just making sure that everybody knows, what time you're going to get back, what they have to do, if they've got to be picked up, if you got to bring black socks, or if you've got to wear a certain color shirt, or if you've got to, what you've got to have to communicate with them ahead of time on that, because that helps you and you don't have to panic that day and go spray paint somebody's ankles or something. So that
have you done that, Joanne? Wait a minute.
Don't answer that question.
But and know what you need. You as a director, read that handbook, especially if you're new.
And Joanne, you're talking about the CPA handbook that you send out, and I'm sure Jenny sends it out in East Tennessee.
And I'll be sending it to you soon too.
Yep.
So, that explains basically everything. And I also send out a list of of director's notes specifically to you uh, about what you need to do, procedures, anything that's different for that university or for that school or wherever we're having it. So just, sorry, my dogs are going
It's
crazy.
okay. I love it.
Is that your dogs? I was like, somebody has a hamster.
No, so I mean, people just read the emails, know what the maps say. If there's a routing change to the university because there's a basketball tournament,
Exactly.
just do your job and
Yes.
read all those emails.
And if there's a bus sign that needs to be there or how to park for parents to park, all that communication will come before CPA.
Yeah.
Not much, but I send it out as soon as I get it from whatever the school is.
Yeah.
So letters about the concessions, everything, so that you're not panicked or what am I going to do about food or
Yep.
You got to plan those things.
What is the best way to handle warm up? If you're the first group of the day or the first group after a break, should you warm up on stage? Is that an advantage? What should you do in warm up? What should you not do?
I've personally never had the opportunity to warm up on stage. So I don't know what I think about that. My first reaction is I don't think I would like that, maybe because I think the mental process of warm up and then leaving and heading to the performance is probably good, but I don't know. I haven't done it, so maybe I shouldn't even speak to that.
What do you think, Joanne?
I love to be able to warm up on stage. I think it's a definite advantage. The kids can hear it. They're not going to be judges in there if you have warm up on the stage. They might be in there for the last minute or two, but they're going to be gone. So, they can hear what's going on. I think it's a great advantage. I would do it if I had the opportunity anytime. Also used to ask for it.
That's good to know.
For the first or before lunch or right after lunch.
Joanne, did the opposite ever happen to you? Because one year we were first on stage and we got out there early, and I remember coming to you and you were like, there's no rule. Get on stage. You can get on there and I'll tell you when you can play.
You have the opportunity to get on stage.
Right.
You can play on stage if you're first or before lunch or after lunch.
So then what happened with me was I let them play some, and then I walked out into the audience and I was like, oh my gosh, I freaked, and I think it's just because I was overthinking it. But then I tried to adjust stuff, you know what I mean? Bass drum, don't play that loud. You can't do that. Then on the tapes, the kids are like, do you have a bass drum player? Whoops. It seems like it's always that bass drummer.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
but it's an advantage because the kids just get feeling a little bit better to where they're at.
I think the big thing probably is just keep things the same. Don't reinvent a new way to tune your band on the day of, just, keep it the same. Like it's another day at school so that everybody's comfortable and it feels like your favorite pair of jeans. That's what we used to always say.
So
I agree with that.
As for warm up, Joanne always says, this is not your last rehearsal. It's a warm up. And that is important to remember. I don't, every facility is different, but where we go at MTSU, there are no stands. And often we're in the choir room, which has risers. So even if you brought stands or something, you couldn't even use them. So, it limits what you can do. And you just need to, as long as you know that going in, it's fine. But if you're going in expecting to run big chunks of the music and stuff, you also have no percussion equipment in there. You can't do that. And again, if you know that ahead of time, it's okay.
And sometimes
it may be that some sites are different and
Yep.
they do a lot of that. So you need to know what you're going into.
the temperature difference can be very extreme sometimes
man.
too. And that, golly,
That is
that was always frustrating.
We were at White House Heritage about 8 years ago, and the warm-up room was a good 93 degrees. I mean, it was, so Jacob and I was like, we're going to play for one note and we're just going to go.
And then
yep. We just didn't play and warm up. We played one note and then, because it wasn't going to do us any good.
Sure.
Well, and then sometimes having kids like try to hold their music up and blah, blah, blah. That just creates like a weird energy of anxiety, you know?
Yeah. And you can
Like
do a lot of stuff that just gets the kids mentally prepared. You can take maybe more time on breathing, or, you know,
sing it. You sing
if you're a
it.
sizzler or a singer or an Aaron Fingers
Yeah.
system, if you got those things in place, do that so that it's still comfortable, but you're not taxing them. Sight reading can be unnerving for everybody. So what do you do to prepare the students beforehand, and how do you handle it on the day of?
What I learned early on in my career, we got to sight read a million things to be ready. And what I've kind of learned, again, this is middle school, it could be different in a high school setting, is we actually don't really do that much work on sight reading, because sight reading is a 3-year process. You cannot teach them to sight read 2 weeks before concert festival. It just doesn't work. But our kids, from the very beginning, we count rhythms every day, always. And, you know, we teach them about key signatures and danger notes, and we drill that every day for 3 years. And so when they have prepared in that way, sight reading is really not that hard for them, because, I mean, for the most part, the two big things are rhythm and key signatures. And if they do those two things, that's like 80% of the battle in sight reading, you know? So if our kids are confident and they can count rhythms and play rhythms accurately, and they can play in the right key, then the sight reading process itself is not that difficult.
Yeah. Joanne, we were talking about sight reading. So you get to meet the directors when they come get their packets after sight reading is over. Based on all that, what does your experience tell you about how directors should handle sight reading?
It's very important to practice it, I think. I mean, we had sight reading folders that we would use and hand out, especially really getting close to it, to go through the procedures and making sure that, you know, the kids understood that they've got to go through and pull out the music and all of that, and make sure they've got the right part. And then the procedures that you'll go through of singing, tapping, clapping, whatever it is that you do normally, that's what you need to do in there. But and just, you know, to make sure that they understand, but do this all during the year, not just right before the actual event. So, you know, take some time and just spend 5 or 10 minutes. There are a lot of groups that will, sight reading is one of the first things they do, and every day. Yeah. They'll sight read something.
You can't cram for it. You can't last minute.
No. But, and you also, and if you don't understand or you've never been, come down and watch and go through. We'll let you go in the sight reading. You go in the sight reading room as long as it's okay with the director. That to watch and see somebody that's really, you know, we'll put you with somebody that knows what they're doing, so that you can learn the procedures and that kind of thing and what you need to do. And
directors can buy the used UIL stuff back in Middleton, at least in Middle Tennessee, right? We can buy that back.
Yeah, I'm not sure if East and West do that or not, but yeah, we do. Either Jeff or JR has the music from the past year, and you can buy that. You can also buy it from UIL and Pepper.
Yeah.
The past years, you can't buy the current year. Only groups like us can purchase it at that time. But they sell it for half price, and it's great. We used to buy a whole set sometimes, and there are several groups that do. I think Robertson County, he usually buys, so he has it to hand out. He'll buy a set of it.
Yep.
So just let us know, or let Jeff or JR know. We'll put your name on it if you want to get it.
We have sight read folders like that also, and that kind of related to the chair thing I said earlier. We always, at some point, will put a wrong instrument in somebody's folder and just see, because we tell them, check that you have the right music, and we'll see, do they really do it, or is that tuba player going to play the flute part the whole time and never notice?
Well, but that has literally happened to me before. There's a year that I was at Sunset, and I had a really great little group, and my first trumpet's all through. I never knew anything was wrong, and we go to play, and they're not playing. I'm like, what is happening? What is happening? And then at the end of it, I was like, Joshua, buddy, did you just get so nervous? He said, Miss Hankins, I had the flute part. I was like,
You had 5 minutes to tell me.
oh my God, why did you not, so I know that seems silly, but like maybe I never communicated to the kids. The first thing that you do is look and see, do you have your music for your instrument? And if you don't, you tell us, because he was so scared and nervous. He never even told anybody, and he never played a note the whole sight reading,
That's a good story. And also just use all the time you have, right?
Mhm.
If you have 7
absolutely.
minutes to look it over, use all the time. There have been directors, we won't name names, that go in and be like, oh, kids, we'd only need to look at this for 30 seconds. And you're dealing with high school kids or middle school kids. No matter how great they are, they're still just children.
Yes.
I always try to save the last 20 seconds or something, no matter what we're doing, to go back to the beginning, just so that, because sometimes there'll be a key change or tempo change. And so that I always end the prep time with airplane or something, the beginning opening bar, so that tempo and key and everything is in their heads.
Hey, the beginning and the end. The stuff that's in the middle, they'll talk about it and whatever. You have got to make sure your kids are going to start together, and you have got to make sure your kids are going to end together.
And if there's some weird transition, there always is, go through it with airplay or air and fingers a couple of times so that they know what you're going to look like. You know what I mean? And you're giving them all the information, and you let them go through that a little bit before they have to play it.
Also, every year, it's probably up now, though I haven't looked, they actually post what percussion is needed for the sight reading for each grade level on the UIL website. And maybe how many, if there's first and second clarinet and all the 3 parts or whatever. So that stuff doesn't have to be a surprise. You can go in knowing this kid's going to play cymbals or whatever.
Brilliant.
And I only found that out like 3 years ago. So that's really helpful.
The one thing that I've realized about sight reading is there's not a right or wrong answer in my brain, but I prioritize rhythm. And if my kids can rhythmically stay together and they also play with like a quality sound, when they play on they play the wrong key, they play on a rest, where they sound good doing it. If you fundamentally teach them some rhythm, and like, no matter what you do, you need to sound the best that you can possibly sound. That's what you want to happen with sight reading. You want them to, to start together, end together, and sound the best that they can throughout it. All of a sudden, when I started prioritizing the rhythm, my sight reading kind of came together a little bit.
Yeah,
more.
Absolutely. Same.
So, and that can't happen overnight. So if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I hope we do really great, it'll take you years to figure out what, how you want it to be and what your system is, and to keep it consistent. But you can't, it doesn't happen overnight. You've got to think, what is the most important thing you want your kids to leave your program doing? And I would say at Page Middle School, our kids can read some rhythm, and they sound good. They don't play the right notes all the time. Lord have mercy, no. But if they play the wrong note, they try to sound like a clarinet instead of a dying donkey. When they're so, that helps when you're sight reading. Fake it till you make it.
That's another podcast, like the pie chart of teaching band. Like, if you have an hour of rehearsal, what are your priorities and how much time do you spend on? That's another podcast episode right there.
I mean, I know we've given a lot of advice. That's all we've done. But I would like to talk to the kids about, not the kids, the young people or whoever that's coming. Percussion is stressful. Like, if I have some advice for them, they need to practice with just that little group of kids, setting that up, making sure they know where it goes.
Oh, when you mean when they come and pull the percussionists out during warm up?
Yeah. Because high school kids, they're kind of trained to do that. They're leaders. They know. Middle school kids, they freak out. And if you send your chaperone with them to do that, that's when it ends up backwards, like what happened with me. So you say you don't have time to do it, you doggone better make time, either at the beginning of school, the end of school. Just say, Evan, you carry the crash cymbals. David, you get the snare off. Joanne, you're in charge of all the mallets. Like, you have to help those kids because they're terrified. They want to do what's best. They don't know what's their equipment, what is not their equipment. And that's the kind of stuff that, like, listen, but you've got to pay attention to your percussion regarding CPA, because if you don't have a special percussionist that's with you, that's helping you, they're going to create stress, and it's not going to be their fault. You know what I mean? It's stressful.
Yep.
So,
And I've been lucky to always have 2 band directors, and always one of them goes with it. But we still, even with that band director with them, we still rehearse it ahead of time, because they will get in there and they freak out, and then the band director that's with them is stressed, and it's just a bad experience for everybody. So we actually like take everything out, make them set it up, tear it down, set it up again. We'll do that 3 or 4 times before we go.
Yep, it's worth it. Okay, so count this as our what not to wear segment. Joanne, I'm going to let you start on this, and I would like you to talk about the directors first, if you don't mind.
Directors, look professional. That is so important. Make sure your keys are not hanging out your back pocket, or that your ID is not hanging around your neck. Put that stuff away for your performance. I used to change shoes, and sometimes I'd forget, and the kids would remind me, have them in my bag. Don't forget to change your shoes. Make sure the backs of your shoes don't have the tire tracks from driving. That's something people never think about. And your shirt tail's tucked in. And ladies, cover your arms. Arms should be covered. Don't wear a prom dress. Yeah, don't wear a dress that has a slit that's comes up too high, and also don't wear a dress or a skirt that's too short, because you're on stage and there are people that are looking up. So you have to think about that. Just make sure, and you've got to think about from the back also, how you look from the back, because that's what everybody's seeing. Make sure that that things fit properly, that it's not too tight, that kind of thing. So that think about how you look from the back.
That's really good.
We don't want to see you and our eye is looking at nothing but you. We want to enjoy the ensemble, and make sure. Men, wear a coat. Don't wear your band shirt. It's great for the kids to wear their band shirts and khakis or something like that, but put on a jacket, turtleneck if you don't want to wear a tie. I prefer a tie, a tuxedo. If your kids are in formal dress, you should be too.
Yep.
If they're in tuxes and black dresses, then that's what you should be in. And for the kids, make sure they're uniform. They don't have to have fancy outfits, but make sure they're uniform. That's the important thing. That everybody looks the same.
It should feel like an event, and we should dress for it as such.
There's a place on there for the way you look and the decor, or I forget what it's called. For the judges to, comment about, are you a dumpster fire when you get out there, or do you know the kids what they're doing, and
that's another thing too. Like
that they got to cheer what they're supposed to do. Go through.
We talked a little bit about stage etiquette, but we didn't talk about when you come on stage. Make sure they know what they're doing. If you're gonna, especially with younger kids, I mean, I highly recommend the come out in rows. It organizes everything. It looks better. If you got a high school group that's a wind ensemble, you can let them come out more like young adults. But for younger kids, do the whole row thing and have it organized beforehand so it looks really professional. And it also it takes the questions out of their minds too. It'll make them feel more relaxed when they can just follow the flow.
Exactly. They know what to expect. And keep them standing so they can teach them. I think we talked about this, how to, make sure there's a chair there before you sit down, and everybody sits down at once. But you got to practice it. You can't just tell them what to do, especially with the younger ones. Another thing not to wear is flip-flops.
Yeah.
On stage. That happened one time. And they were very cute, but totally inappropriate. And flowery dresses or flowery skirts. I'm talking about for the conductor now. Dark colors.
Yep.
Dark colors.
Yep.
I like to look good. I'm not going to lie. Like, I mean, like, it doesn't matter if I'm fat or skinny or old or young. Like, it doesn't matter what you are. You got to look put together. You got to get somebody to help you that you love and that you trust. And like, I have my friend go with me to wherever, Nordstrom or wherever I'm going. And I know I look like an idiot, but I conduct in the outfit. And I move my arms as big as I can. And I figure out, is that going to feel tight around me? And am I going to like that? And no. And I get somebody to take pictures of me. And then also I have fantastic co-director, Evan, who will not let me look bad. So
I just have to say something briefly about my shoes. I like shoes, and somehow the kids have kind of picked up on that. And like Edmundo, we talked about earlier, came up to me at a concert and said, "I heard a rumor that you're wearing Gucci shoes." It was like, first of all, no, I'm not. But like, why are y'all talking about that? So anyway, all that to say, it's just kind of like become a little bit of a trademark, and I'm always going to have some kind of cool shoes that they're always appropriate, Joanne. No crepe soles, I promise. They're leather sole, formal shoes. But I don't know. You may not approve this year. I got some real cool ones picked out. They might be colorful, but they are formal shoes, I promise. But anyway, it is nice to have something that's a little trademark.
Yeah.
It's just your little thing that gives you a little personality, as long as it's professional and appropriate, you know.
That's what I was going to say. It makes the kids excited. They're like, Mr. Burton's going to have on some fun shoes, you know?
Yeah.
And like they connect that to their performance and the excitement. And it's a tradition and it's a culture that you build. Yeah. And that's awesome. I think it's great. I took the job at Page Middle for years. They carried those doggone bow ties in a Home Depot bucket. I told him, I said, let me tell you something. When I come there, we ain't handing out bow ties from the Home Depot bucket. We are not the Home Depot band. So, Evan, you tell them what you got
for
for
my
your
birthday last year. She said, "This is a gift for you, but it's really for me." And it was a big, giant, fake from China Louis Vuitton like duffel bag that we put all of our bow ties in that belongs to the Page band.
So, when you see it, that's right. No Home Depot bucket.
The bucket was orange, yes.
Yes. When you see us at Concert Performance Assessment, you will know that I paid $59.95 for the tote bag that is the Louis Vuitton fake that we will hand our bow ties out from. So there you go. Perception.
That's incredible.
Perception.
That's incredible, man. It's so funny. Can you think about some times that a band really surprised you? They don't have to be a grade 6 band. It could be a middle school band from a school you'd never heard of that really surprised you.
Yeah, I think the groups that sometimes surprise me more are the ones that are maybe they're not the most affluent from the most affluent areas and that kind of thing. And they come in and you can tell that they enjoy it and that the director enjoys what he's doing. I think two that come to my mind that I just always love to watch and listen and see come are Jackson County, Carol Gocher, and the other one would have to be Daryl Boston when he was at Loretta, and he's now at Lawrence County, so I'm sure it will continue there. But you can tell that the kids enjoy what they're doing and they want to do well, and that's always heartwarming, and it makes me feel good to hear them have a great success and a performance that's memorable to them.
You don't have to be a grade 6 band to give a great performance.
Absolutely not. Both of these are grade 2s, grade 3, grade 2. Yeah.
And for that to happen, the young directors who I think I don't want to overstate this and assume it, but oftentimes seem to want to just kind of hunker down and not ask for help. Ask for help. Find yourself a Joanne Hood or an Evan Burton or a Carolyn Hankins, somebody that can help you, and face your fears, let go of your ego, and ask for help. And your band will get better.
100%.
In my early years of teaching, I was terrible. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was also so embarrassed to ask for help. And I regret that so much. I could have grown so much faster, but I didn't want anyone, I wanted to appear that I had it all together, which if you'd heard my band, you would know that I didn't. But, I didn't want anybody to know. So I didn't want to ask questions or ask for help. I was too embarrassed for somebody coming in here, my band, or help. But, and not looking back, that's so silly. And now at this stage, when I am better at what I do, I'm not afraid to say, I don't know how to do this, or you do this better than I, how can I, what do you do? Help me, please. And, I just wish I had done that younger.
Well, and you
I could have learned so much.
Page Middle's one of the best band programs in Middle Tennessee in the state. But you guys are always bringing people in asking for help. You don't.
Oh my gosh,
you don't have to,
why,
but you still do. And that's why you keep getting better every year.
When I kind of almost felt like I was a decent teacher, it was when I realized that I had let go of everything else. And I honestly, anytime I have a question, anytime I just think, what's best for this kid? What's best for this kid? Just do what's best for the student and what's best for my band program, and quit worrying about it. And then it really does kind of all fall into place. But I will say, it's easy to say it now, but I don't know how to freaking play the bassoon. The bassoon is awful. It's a terrible instrument. You should just burn it, right? So for so long,
my daughter
I'm like,
plays bassoon.
Yeah, I know she does, and she plays it very well because I teach.
And that's why we text her constantly.
That's all I was going to say.
What does this mean?
Or she has some notes that she left here. I'm like, I need some help on what this pedal key something another. What the heck is this? But 15 years ago, I would have been like, yes, I'm the teacher. You're the student. I know how to play the bassoon. You don't. And that is so not helpful. It is okay to be vulnerable.
Yes.
And it is okay to show, when I kind of feel like that my bands came to fruition was when I realized, I'm going to think about what I'm really great at, and I'm going to get fantastic at what it is that I'm great at. But the things that I'm terrible at, I don't need to continue to focus on those things. I've got to get help. So there are so many people. Evan has come and helped me so many times before we worked together for free. I would call him and be like, Evan, what is the stupidest questions ever. I can't even think about it, but embarrassing questions, I'll tell this story and you can put it on the podcast, David. So we have on our song, we have to have some crotales. Well, I Google crotales because I'm the saxophone player. I know it's something in percussion that I'm glad I don't play. That's what I know. Right. So I Google it and I see this huge thing of all these different types of cymbals and stuff. And it's enormous. So we need a C and a G. Well, I figure out that we asked somebody at Midstate, do you have any crotales? And Woodland has them. So one day after school, I drive over there and I called Sloan. And I'm like, hey, I'm here to pick up those crotales. I'm like, are they going to fit in my car? And they're tiny. It's a shiny,
two little discs.
Tiny cymbals. I was as big as a quarter. And I was like, oh my God. So I've been teaching 22 years. My children have played it, and we've had enormous success, and I am that stupid. So you don't have to know everything, and you've got to laugh when you don't know the things, and you just got to get help. And just when you make a decision, pretend like that's your own kid, man. What would you want for your own child? You just want them to be better at the end of the day, and get help. And people come and help you for free. Yeah. They really will. People want to help. People in music are the kindest, most amazing people. We had somebody today at our school, Evan, right? We didn't even know who he was. He was a friend of the assistant principal. Trombone professor.
Vanderbilt, and was just like, hey, I would love to come work with you.
Oh, Jeremy.
I'm like, great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jeremy played, he played in the Vienna Philharmonic.
Really?
Yeah.
No,
I did not know that.
Yeah.
No, we didn't know anything.
He's from Warren County, Tennessee. He played in the Vienna Philharmonic. Yes.
Well, he came today only because he has a connection with our assistant principal and plays the trombone, and we let the trombone. Our doors are open. Come in and help us and talk to us. And life is. I know I'm old, but life is short. Have fun and meet people that you can and get better and help those kids because, man, there's not a lot of good things to celebrate, and help the kids to love music because I hope they love to come to band. That's the one time of the day that I love my job. I don't really even feel like it's a job. And I hope they feel like that when they come into my class. But I'm not great at a lot of things. And it took a lot of time for me to kind of get to the point of being like, I don't know everything, but the kids do know I want them to be great. I want them to sound great. I want them to put their best, they get that I am their leader, but you don't have to know everything.
Yeah.
But Evan knows
And
a
it's
lot
okay
more.
to tell the kids, like, I'm not sure about that. Let's see if we can figure it out together.
Yeah.
Or why don't you figure that out? Or let me find out for you.
Yeah.
I mean, that models learning for them. It's good for the kids to see.
Yes,
that,
because you don't want
that
the
you're still learning.
It's okay to. I mean, that was in a school today, and that was the conversation. The director and I had a great conversation about this. It's a school. It's built for everybody to learn, whether you're a teacher or a student or a principal or SRO. Like, that's what's going on in that building, and everybody needs to be open to that idea. We're not just protecting our egos.
That it's hard to be a music teacher or a band director. You're by yourself. Maybe you have another person with you, but you're on this island of self-doubt and not, and I would call Evan.
Yep.
Oh, it's hard, and if I have any suggestion for anybody young or old, if you can find one person that you trust 60%, just a little bit more than 50, that you can call and say, man, my trumpets suck. I do not know what to do. Or why can I not stand my percussion? Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Or, anything my band doesn't sound like, and I've been lucky. Evan has been that person with me. He's heard me call and say Evan, I honestly can tell you that I'm 40 years old and I cannot play a 7-stroke roll. You know what I mean? It's confessional.
Don't call me for that, because I can't help you either.
Call Joanne. She's got it.
Listen, I can tell you it sounds bad all day long, but I don't know how to tell you fix it. I'll just say, that's bad. Fix it.
I know Rick Murphy used to call Brad Kenny. This is back in the 80s. He would call Brad and put the phone up and then have the band play while he's holding the phone. This is in the 80s. There was no texting a voice memo or whatever.
Right.
Love it.
It's so easy now, though. You just take a voice memo on your phone and text it to your friend and say, hey, what do you think about this? Let's all let down our guard and our egos and be willing to ask for help.
But listen, it's so easy to say that, though, when you're old like us, y'all. It really is. But we all, when we were young, we're not very good. We just acted like we were.
Well, that's what Evan said. He wished he could go back now and be vulnerable then, so we would have grown more. That's why we're saying this, because we made those mistakes. Do you have any funny stories? Joanne, I think we should talk about the Tullahoma Horns when their music fell.
Oh yes, that is a moment that will go down in history. The French horns, which were phenomenal musicians, phenomenal kids, are coming on stage very professionally. I think they're probably maybe the last group of the day, because they're pretty large group, and the stage is full of chairs, and they walk on stage with their music. Music falls out of their folder and hits the crack between the stage and the pit stage that has to go down. It goes through that down into the pit, the orchestra pit. And Coleman says, oh, it's okay. I brought the extra parts, which you should always take. And the little French horn player says, Mr. Coleman, I borrowed the extra part already. So they had no French horn music. So they had to move all the chairs, lower the stage, send the workers down to get the music, retrieve the music, then put everything back. And that was a history making.
It was
day.
it was a miracle of physics, because it wasn't like that crack between the lift and the stage was like less than a quarter of an inch wide, and it just managed to somehow go straight down.
Right into it.
Yeah.
Straight into it. So funny. Only could happen
Absolutely.
to the Colemans.
It was so funny. And of course, the funny thing about it is, like you said, is they're all all-state players.
Yeah. I mean, one of them is now the lyric opera in Chicago conductor.
Yeah.
So it's not like they were little freshmen running around.
Yeah, we should try to get them on the podcast, do an episode about music gate from whenever that was. I think they were playing like liturgical
Oh, yeah.
dances or something with these ridiculous horn parts. You know, it was something crazy. And you got to laugh at it because it happens. I mean, we played at National Concert Festival about 10 years ago, and we were playing Esprit de Corps. That was the first thing we were playing. I was so excited. The band warmed up. We sounded good. And we get to the first big cymbal crash, and the kids crash the cymbals, and the strap breaks, and the plate hits the ground on the edge and bounces across the stage. Like I got like Eugene Corporon, like looking at my score, making comments, and I got bouncing cymbals across the stage. I didn't see that kid for like 5 minutes, and all of a sudden he just like stands up and he's got both the cymbals, and he's MacGyvered the cymbal strap, and he's back for the last minute. And man,
That's fantastic.
I mean, I was laughing about it, but that whole concert was wonky because we were all like, "Oh my gosh!" You know, I should have laughed more about it. It would have been better if I had. Okay, do we have any final thoughts about CPA? We're going to get started on this pretty soon. Joanne, I know you're working on the program, and same is happening over in East and Middle too, or East and West as well. So any final thoughts for directors as we go into this?
Just get help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Call people. You know, we're all going to want you to do well. And if we can, we'll come out to a rehearsal and give you some help, or some, you know, talk about what you need to do or anything. Or if you have questions, get help. You're not on an island. You don't have to do it by yourself. And read your handbook. Read your CPA handbook so you know what's going on, especially if you're a young, new director and you've never really gone through it. Here, maybe you went through it as a student, but a lot of times you don't remember what went on then.
And reach out about that too. Call somebody that's experienced, that's done it, and just ask for their thoughts about it. Bounce ideas off. So especially if you're young and you've never gone through it before, because it can be really stressful, and it's different than marching band. Because in marching band, you've got 2 or 3, 4 chaperones with you, and you may just be by yourself for this. Oh, and it's something else we should talk about too. A lot of bands, especially on the middle school side, they will have another teacher come with them as the chaperone, because the teacher knows the students, might be more comfortable talking to the parent or talking to the students than a parent would be. So that's an idea, is to bring a teacher chaperone with you. And if you live close, if it's close, try to get your administrator to come. There's nothing better than having the administrator be there with you and then go through the sight reading process and see what those kids are doing in the sight reading. You want to score points to your administrator. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, that's a perfect thing. And you come during the week. And I think we talked about that already, but come and observe and watch.
Yep.
And watch what's going on, so you as a director are comfortable, if you can, get away and come hear a couple of bands before you have to actually go through the process.
Well, there's been a lot of good information in this podcast that I hope people get a lot out of, and I just can't thank you all enough for coming on. And Joanne's a regular co-host for us, and so Burton and Carolyn, you're our guests tonight. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your motivation with the band directors across the state, because I think it's going to be really valuable.
Oh,
thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
It's
honored
been fun
to be here. Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks for listening to Bandstand. If you have topic suggestions or need to get in touch with us, email us at tbabandstandpodcast@gmail.com. Your input is important to us, and if you have a topic you'd like us to discuss about the past, present, or future of Tennessee bands, please let us know. Again, that email is tbabandstandpodcast@gmail.com. Right now we're broadcasting on Spotify and YouTube, so please subscribe, review, and rate. Box 5, please. And more importantly, share this podcast with your friends. See you next week.